What's up? Nick Hilton here with Mountain Bike Action, and in this video, we're testing and reviewing the Yeti LTe. The LTe is essentially the successor to Yeti's 160e, which was their flagship e-bike, and there has been some changes and some upgrades. Let's start with the drive unit. Yeti has gone away from the Shimano EP8 motor and built their new LTe around the Bosch Performance Line CX motor. The C2 and T3 builds get the regular CX motor, while the T4 build gets the CX race motor. Now, both of these motors are capable of 100 Newton meters of torque, 750 watts of power, and all three bikes ship with an 800 watt-hour battery. You can put a 600 watt-hour battery in for shorter rides if you wanted to save a little bit of weight. Medium through extra large frames are compatible with the Power More range extender that would give 250 watt-hours of additional battery. Built neatly into the top tube is Bosch's full-color Kiox 400C display, which can show speed, battery life, range, and more. Now, the LTe ships with 4 assist modes programmed in, and the motor is controlled via the Bosch wireless mini remote. Each of these modes are customizable through the Bosch Flow app. With the app, you can add or remove assist modes, and in each assist mode, you can adjust the max torque, the max power, and you can adjust the dynamics. A higher dynamic would make for a touchier and more aggressive onset of the power, whereas a very low dynamics would be much more gradual and smooth. To test out this motor and battery, we are going to climb up the fire road, straight 1,000 foot in elevation gain. It gets pretty steep at some points. I'm gonna put this into turbo mode. I've got torque all the way up, max power all the way up, and dynamics right in the middle. And we've got 95% battery. We're gonna see how long it takes us to get to the top and how much battery that uses on turbo with everything maxed out. And I'm not gonna push too hard. I'm gonna not be lazy, but I'm just gonna get myself to the top because it can get pretty brutal. So check in when we're done and see the stats. 8:19, see how long it takes us. Let's go. Oh, it's so steep. Oh, was not expecting that. It got so steep, the front wheel wasn't even on the ground. That was crazy. Anyways, we keep going. Okay, so that was 1,000 feet straight up the mountain. We're at 81%, which means we used about 14% of our battery, and it's 8:32. So that took like 13 minutes. Now I'm gonna turn this off and we're gonna see what my wattage was consistently, because I wasn't pushing too hard. I was pretty much just getting myself up the hill. Average power is 132 watts. So pretty mellow. If you were to push double that the whole time, you'd probably use more battery. All right, so we're taking a look at the app right now. On the turbo mode, I have my torque all the way up. I have max power turned all the way up. Let's put the dynamic all the way down to -5 real quick, and let's see. See how at -5, the power comes on like relatively slow? Well, watch what happens when we set the dynamic of our turbo mode all the way up. I'm gonna grab onto the handlebars real quick. You see that? That is with the torque all the way up and the dynamics all the way up. Just felt like showing you that. So for the frame, like the Special Projects bikes and the recently released MTE, Yeti is using a Vectran enhanced carbon layup for the frame, and from its predecessor, the 160E, the LTE gets a few geometry adjustments like a slackened head tube to 64 degrees across the entire size range. It's got a higher stack and an extended reach. This bike ships with dual 29-inch wheels, but Yeti did add in their mixed wheel flip chip to allow for running a 27.5 wheel in the rear while still maintaining the geometry of the bike. Yeti has included an accessory mount under the top tube, and of course, water bottle bosses on the down tube. On our medium frame, a 20-ounce water bottle just barely fits, so on a small, it might not. You might need to use a smaller water bottle, but I can't say that right now. Now let's get into suspension. The LTE has 160 millimeters of rear travel, which is achieved with Yeti's Sixfinity suspension design, which was first introduced on the 160E and then used on the MTE. And they pair that with a Fox Factory Float X2 shock on the T3 and T4 builds, while the C2 build gets a Fox Performance Float X shock. In the front, we've got 170 millimeters of travel, and the T4 build gets the new Fox Podium fork, while the C2 build gets a Fox Performance 38. On our T3 test bike, we have a Fox Factory 38 with the Grip X2 damper. Now, as with the 160E, there is a 3-position leverage rate adjustment. It comes in the middle position, which is more of like a balanced position. You can move it slightly more linear to get a more racy feel, or you can move it the other direction to get a more progressive, kind of poppy feel to your suspension. Okay, now for the components. The LTE comes in 3 different builds, which starts at $10,300 for the C2 build, which is an Eagle 90 transmission, and goes up to the T4 XX transmission build, and this one is $14,900. Our test bike is the middle build. It's a T3 XO transmission build, and it is $12,900. We've ridden many bikes with SRAM XO wireless transmission. It always works great, and it's worked flawlessly on the LTE. It's equipped with SRAM Maven Silver brakes and SRAM HS2 rotors, 200 millimeter front and rear. These brakes are incredible. They have a lot of stopping power. They're some of my personal favorite brakes on the market right now, and that added weight of the e-bike is really no match for the brakes. Even on really long brake heavy descents, I don't see any major fade happening from these brakes. Yeti has included their new carbon handlebar that they designed in-house. They debuted it on the MTE, and they've used it again here on the LTE. The handlebars are connected to a Bergtech Enduro Mark III stem, and they're topped off with ODI Elite Pro grips. Now the seat is a WTB Solano, which provides pretty good support. It's not my favorite necessarily, but it gets the job done, and I have not felt the need to swap it out on the LTE, and that's attached to a SRAM Reverb AXS dropper. Now the size range gets different size droppers. The small frame gets a 150 millimeter dropper, whereas the medium gets a 175 millimeter dropper, and the large gets a 200 millimeter dropper. For wheels, we've got a pair of DT Swiss HXC 1700 carbon wheels, and those are topped off with some Schwalbe radial tires. We've got a Magic Mary Trail Pro in the front, and we've got an Albert Gravity Pro in the rear. Now these wheels have been exceptional. There are many times where I've done a very terrible whip and landed sideways, and I've heard many rock pings from the back, running too low of pressure, and kind of immediately thought that I was going to see a dent or a wheel that was out of true, and I have yet to true the wheels. They have been super strong, and I'm very impressed with them. The tires, it took me a bit to like them. At first, I didn't really understand the hype around the Schwalbe radial tires. They have great traction, but they didn't feel anything special to me. And then I was told that I was probably running too low of PSI. And so once I stepped out of my comfort zone into a higher PSI than I normally run, I really started to see the benefits of the radial tires, and I really, really do like them. All right, how does the LTE ride? Climbing on the LTE, of course, it's an e-bike, and with the Bosch CX motor, it goes up hills very easily. I'm amazed at how steep of hills you can get up. Now, like in my demonstration, if you have the dynamics up, the torque up, and you're on turbo, when things get really, really steep, there is that point where the bike will flip you over. It's like those motocross hill climb videos, like it wants to flip you. It has the power to do that. And on those steep ascents in that turbo mode, if you do have to stop, it's very hard to get going again because the motor hits so hard. So keep that in mind when adjusting your settings in the app. If you are gonna be climbing really, really steep stuff, having the dynamics lower is going to be beneficial for getting started on steep ascents and for not looping out because of the overall torque and oomph that it gives you. Overall though, when you're climbing, you're in a very comfortable and upright position, so long climbs are pretty easy. When I was climbing with all my camera gear on my back, it was very chill. It's easy to maintain traction, torque and dynamics aside, and it's pretty maneuverable on the more technical climbs. When it comes to going downhill, though the LTE is in reality bigger than the 160e, it doesn't really feel like that. It maintains its maneuverability. It's still pretty fun and snappy when you're going down the hills. It jumps well. You can pretty easily lean it over if you need to scrub off speed, but it still feels extremely stable and planted. Getting traction and getting the wheels down onto the ground and keeping them there to get your effective braking is really easy. The Mavens also are incredible on the bike when going downhill. The Mavens mixed with the suspension performance really inspire confidence when you're going downhill. Now, I will say, this bike definitely wants to go fast. It's constantly pulling you down the trail, and it's gonna perform better when you're going fast. The slower you go, the less everything on the bike wants to move, and so it's a little more rough, clunky, kind of feels lethargic. But when you get into those higher speeds, everything about the bike really starts to work together to smooth out that terrain and allow you to confidently push through that trail. Overall, this bike is ridiculously fun. Whether you are doing self-shuttle laps where you're just climbing up a fire road and going down, climbing up the fire road and going down, or you're doing more of an up and down long ride where you're speedily going uphill and then going downhill, it's such a fun experience no matter which way you choose to use the bike because it handles so well in so many different situations. Now, of course, with a starting price of $10,300, it can seem pretty steep for a lot of people, but if you're someone who this is in your budget, it's an incredible bike and it's definitely something worth looking into. And if you can get out and ride one, I suggest you do it. All right, that is our review of the Yeti LTE. We'll see you in the next video.